From the 1978 Inspector General's Act, short title, this act be cited as the Inspector General Act of 1978. Corporate statement, purpose and establishment of offices of Inspector Generals, departments, and agencies involved. In order to create independent and objective units, 1. To conduct and supervise audits and investigations relating to the programs and operations of the establishments listed in Section 11.2. Number 2. To provide leadership and coordination and recommend policies for activities designed, A. To promote economy, efficiency, and effectiveness in the administration of, and B. To prevent and detect fraud and abuse in such programs and operations, and 3. To provide a means for keeping the head of the establishment and the Congress fully and currently informed about problems and deficiencies relating to the administration of such programs and operations and the necessity for the progress of corrective action. That's social engineering, by the way. Corrective action doctrine. It's social engineering. From Black's Law Dictionary, first edition, deposit. A naked bailment of goods to be kept for the depositor without reward, and to be returned when he shall require it. A bailment of goods to be kept by the bailee without reward, and delivered according to the object or purpose of the original trust. A deposit in general is an act by which a person receives the property of another, binding himself to preserve it and return it in kind. Back to the 1978 Inspector General's Act. Transitional provisions relating to appointment of Inspector General of Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. Current service, except as otherwise provided by law, the individual serving as the Inspector General of the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation before the date of enactment of this Act, December 17, 1993, this is a further act, may continue to serve in such position until the earlier of A, the date of which the President appoints a successor under Section 3A of the Inspector General Act of 1978. Now, remember, successor. From Black's Law Dictionary, first edition, successio. In the civil law, coming in place of another or on his decease, coming into the estate which a deceased person had at the time of his death. This was either by virtue of an express appointment of the deceased person by his will, or by the general appointment of law in the case of intestacy. Okay, now this one takes us to the letters patent. From Black's Law Dictionary, first edition. Earlier we were talking about deposit being a naked bailment of goods. Okay, now what is a name? The name, N-A-A-M, is the attaching or taking of movable goods and chattels called vis or mort, according as the chattels were living or dead. What the letters patent is the ability of these entities to find you. They're finding you and giving you a new name. Family name means genus or subspecies. From Black's Law Dictionary, first edition, cognomen, a man's family name. The first name, praenomen, was the proper name of the individual. The second nomen indicated the gens or tribe to which he belonged, while the third, cognomen, denoted his family, genus or species. In 1864, with the Geneva Convention, they developed foundling hospitals by which to find you the new product and give you a name, the last name, which is a cognomen or new species name. Erickson, Johnson, you have Smith, which indicates you're a blacksmith or a silversmith. This is what you do. It's a descriptor whereby they can maintain the letters patent. This allows you to be the deposit, based on the name, into the bank. From Black's Law, first edition, bank, a bench or seat, the bench or tribunal occupied by the judges, the seat of judgment, a court. These are the same banks or ephors at Sparta, which tore down Spartan community culture. And of course now known as the Federal Magistrate Judges Association. Federal, confederated. From Black's Law Dictionary, first edition, confederacy. In criminal law, the association or banding together of two or more persons for the purpose of committing an act or furthering an enterprise which is forbidden by law, or which, though lawful in itself, becomes unlawful when made the object of the Confederacy. Conspiracy is a more technical term for this offense. The act of two or more who combine together to do any damage or injury to another or to do an unlawful act. This is Sparta. In order to engineer Spartan society or American society or culture, one must be reliant on education. The best source for anyone to read would be Emile, or the Treatise on Education by Jean-Jacques Rousseau.
The shadow knows.
Breaking news from RevolutionRadioFreedomSlips.com. Congress is trying to kill us. Today on Chicago.cbslocal.com. State Representative, maybe the police are killing some of these kids. An Illinois state representative has publicly raised the possibility that Chicago police officers might be the ones responsible for the unsolved murders of black youths in Chicago. Now, this is corporate policy. This is maintained by Congress. From Black's Law Dictionary, first edition, Confederacy. In criminal law, the association or banding together of two or more persons for the purpose of committing an act or furthering an enterprise which is forbidden by law, or which though lawful in itself becomes unlawful when made the object of the Confederacy. Conspiracy is a more technical term for this offense. The act of two or more who combine together to do any damage or injury to another, to do any unlawful act. Starting in October of 1777, Congress came in with the Articles of Confederation. Article 12 says all bills of credit emitted, monies borrowed, and debts contracted by or under the authority of Congress before the Assembly of the United States in pursuance of the present Confederation shall be deemed and considered as a charge against the United States for payment and satisfaction whereof the said United States and the public faith are hereby solemnly pledged. They have pledged and charged you to offset congressional bankruptcy. This is further evidence in 28 U.S.C. 453 oaths of justices and judges. Each justice or judge of the United States shall take the following oath or affirmation before performing the duties of his office. I, blank, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will administer justice with all respect to persons, and to do equal right to the poor and to the rich, and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge, and perform all the duties incumbent upon me as blank under the Constitution and laws of the United States, so help me God. They're offsetting congressional bankruptcy by throwing you under the bus during the court process. The 1929 Geneva Convention maintains you as a prisoner of war. You are being held as prisoner of war under corporate policy to offset congressional bankruptcy. Article 28, starting at Article 28, you will find that officers, law enforcement officers, court officers are prisoners of war as well. They are held as prisoners of war. Agents and FBI, CIA are not prisoners of war. Law enforcement officials are told to maintain policy. Mommy, it hurt. Tragic last words of Down syndrome man 26 who died in handcuffs on the floor after he refused to leave a movie theater. A movie theater. He was murdered because he was being a detriment to commerce. The definition of bank: a bench or seat. The bench or tribunal occupied by the judges. The seat of judgment, a court. Articles of Incorporation, sometimes also referred to as the Certificate of Incorporation or the Corporate Charter, are the primary rules governing the management of a corporation in the United States and Canada, and are filled with the state or other regulatory agency. For example, Articles of Confederation, also known as Letters of Marque. From Black's Law Dictionary, first edition, Confederacy. In criminal law, the association or banding together of two or more persons for the purpose of committing an act or furthering an enterprise which is forbidden by law, or which, though lawful in itself, becomes unlawful when made the object of the confederacy. Conspiracy is a more technical term for this offense. The act of two or more who combine together to do any damage or injury to another, or to do any unlawful act. In the days of fighting sale, a letter of marque and reprisal was a government license authorizing a person known as a privateer to attack and capture enemy vessels and bring them before admiralty courts for condemnation and sale. These pirates, under oath, 28 U.S.C. 453, are furthering commercial enterprise to offset congressional bankruptcy. This business license is maintained under 27 CFR 72.11, commercial crimes. Any of the following types of crimes, federal or state, offenses against the revenue laws: burglary, counterfeiting, forgery, kidnapping, larceny, robbery, illegal sale or possession of deadly weapons, prostitution, including soliciting, procuring, pandering, white slaving, keeping house of ill flame, and like offenses, extortion, swindling, and confidence games, and attempting to commit, conspiring to commit, or compounding any of the foregoing crimes. Addiction to narcotic drugs and use of marijuana will be treated as if such were commercial crime. You have been stolen by privateers, authorized by pirates, via letter of marque. Stop patronizing this thing. Genesis 3. So you trusted someone else and they told you you were naked, right? You walked off that way, and Genesis 3:15. And I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. Fiduciary, holding in trust. From fiducia, trust, from root fidere, to trust. Tree of knowledge, fide, fig. Conceive, from Latin concepere, past participle conceptus, to take in and hold. Become pregnant, from com, to form of capere, to take, from pi cap, to grasp. To grasp. Concept. So we're walking along in the garden and somebody wants to take control of us. This is through the action of low-intensity conflict, winning hearts and minds. Winning hearts and minds is a concept occasionally expressed in the resolution of war, insurgency, and other conflicts in which one side seeks to prevail not by the use of superior force, but by making emotional or intellectual appeals to sway supporters of the other side. The use of the term hearts and minds to reference a method of bringing a subjugated population on side was first used during the Malayan emergency by the British, who employed practices to keep the Malayans' trust and reduce the tendency to side with ethnic Chinese communists. In this case, by giving medical and food aid to the Malays and indigenous tribes. A British report of the time stated, "One impressive result of this campaign has been the extent to which Malay women are now taking part in political and social affairs." What? Who told you were naked? Something still very uncommon among a Muslim people. So much for official measures to encourage racial unity. But both General Templar and his successors, Sir Donald McGillivray, have insisted time after time that Malayan patriotism, calling something your father, cannot be imposed from without or from above. It must develop in the hearts and minds of the Malayans themselves. So what about these concepts? During the French Revolution, females were given, such as the Declaration on the Rights of Citizens and Females. What this does is it creates a concept, tells her that you are picking on her, you are subjugating her, when in reality she's shadow of the state. This is a concept that she buys from the law merchant, trusting in the fiduciary, that good old snake in the garden, offering her all sorts of things. And look at that. The word sabotage stems from the word from sabat, or wooden shoe. A bruise on the heel, perhaps. When Eve runs off and starts contracting with the fiduciary, with the legal system, she is your saboteur. She is the bruise on the heel, and she hates you because they have so much to offer. You don't have that much to offer. You can't give her daycare subsidies and free schooling and welfare benefits and Social Security and free housing and everything else she's ever dreamt of, those titles, specialization. Recently we had one female that was specialized in the Attorney General's office out in Colorado that was kidnapping children, but she's completely specialized. She's become the saboteur. She is a bruise on his heel, and she uses the children to get back at you. She's socially engineered to do this by that fiduciary, by that trust relationship she has with the other daddy, the state.
The shadow knows.
Blue Coal presents The Shadow, the mystery man who strikes terror in the very hearts of Shops's lawbreakers and criminals. Today, The League of Terror.
Trending now on CNN. The role race played. Twitter erupts in disbelief. Civil suit or civil rights suit possible. Watch as verdict is read. Pockets of protests, anger, sadness. Many cities protest verdict. Martin's parents react to verdict. Zimmerman's brother, jury spoke. Now who's festering this? Who's doing these things? No one's looking at the attorneys. No one's looking at the media. They're all looking at Zimmerman. Who does these things to divide and conquer? Let's see here. Divide and conquer devices. Devices. Skin color, religion, social customs, nationalities, languages, class or caste systems, political preferences, professional specialization, academic specialization, individuals' troubles, sufferings, and discontent. From genocidewatch.org. The 8 stages of genocide. Classification, symbolization, dehumanization, organization, polarization, preparation, extermination, and denial. Number 1, classification by culture. Symbolization. We give names or other symbols to classifications. We name people Jews or gypsies, or distinguish them by colors of dress. Dehumanization. One group denies the humanity of the other group. Organization. Genocide is always organized, usually by the state, often using militias to provide deniability of state responsibility. Polarization. Extremists drive the groups apart. Hate groups broadcast polarizing propaganda. Feminism. Preparation. Victims are identified and separated out because of their ethnic or religious identity. Zimmerman. Extermination begins and quickly becomes the mass killing legally called genocide. This is happening through the medical industry, psychological industry, and the criminal industry. And the denial. Denial is the stage that always follows a genocide. It is among the surest indicators of further genocidal massacres. The perpetrators of genocide dig up mass graves, burn the bodies, try to cover up the evidence, and intimidate the witnesses. They deny that they've committed any crimes and often blame what happened on the victims. April 24, 1974. Dr. Henry Kissinger proposed in his memorandum to the National Security Council that depopulation should be the highest priority of U.S. foreign policy towards the Third World. He quoted reasons of national security and because the U.S. economic economy will require large and increasing amounts of minerals from abroad, especially from less developed countries. Wherever a lessening of population can increase the prospects for such stability, population policy becomes relevant to resources, supplies, and to the economic interests of the United States Incorporated. The targeting agency for the operation is the National Security Council's ad hoc group on population policy. Its policy planning group is in the U.S. State Department's Office of Population Affairs, established in 1975 by Henry Kissinger. Attorneys are accountants. To them, we don't have a color, we don't have a race, religion, culture. Those are just tools to pit us against each other, polarize us after classification, dehumanization, etc. When we're pit up against each other, we're not seeing what they're doing. Wasn't culture on that list? Who's funding Monsanto? Oh, I see. Comes straight out of the United States Incorporated, doesn't it? But if they pit us against each other, we never see what their other hand is doing, do we? Nobody sees the real players in this game, or the overall intent of policy, corporate policy. Sexism created by the attorneys. Racism created and maintained to let fester by the attorney. Terrorism created and maintained by the attorney. The word colony stems from settled land, farm, or landed estate. Injury, to put into law. CMS.gov, Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. Indications and limitations of coverage. A. Covered persons. Payment may be made only where sterilization is a necessary part of the treatment of an illness or injury. Injury, to put into law. Stolen wombs. In 1941, Hitler suspended the Action T4 program that killed nearly 100,000 people. Euthanasia continued through the use of drugs and starvation instead of gassings. Prescription painkillers now the leading cause of accidental deaths in the United States. 41,000 Americans died as a result of poisoning compared to 38,000 vehicle traffic deaths in 2010. Castration drug given to kids as autism therapy. Nearly 250 female inmates sterilized in California prisons without state approval. The doctors were under contract with the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. Injury, to put into law. Human capital returns from prison industry investment and production. The GEO Group is the world's leading provider of correctional detention and community reentry services. Injury, to put into law. Death derivatives emerge from pension risk of living too long. You are living too long and creating a risk. April 24, 1974, Henry Kissinger. Dr. Henry Kissinger proposed in his memorandum to the NSC that depopulation should be the highest priority of U.S. foreign policy towards the Third World. Planned Parenthood. Over 1 million abortions are performed in the United States Incorporated each and every year. Ex-judge defends ordering an abortion for a woman. Injury, to put into law, to bring into law, in order to garner funding through WHO, the World Health Organization. Judges, attorneys, legal professionals have to order that these things occur. This is how they are generating revenue These are your brothers and sisters. These are your children. This is what corporate welfare looks like. This is low-intensity conflict, a war waged on you that you don't even have any clue is occurring. Winning hearts and minds is a concept occasionally expressed in the resolution of war, insurgency, and other conflicts, in which one side seeks to prevail not by the use of superior force, but by making emotional or intellectual appeals to sway supporters of the other side. After being labeled as criminals, sheeple allow this. Stop allowing this. This is Nazi Germany all over again. Matthew 22. Tell us therefore, what thinkest thou? Is it lawful to give tribute to Caesar or not? But Jesus perceived their wickedness, and said, Why tempt ye me, ye hypocrites? Show me the tribute money. And they brought unto him a penny. And he saith unto them, Whose is this image and superscription? They say unto him, Caesar's. Then saith he unto them, Render therefore unto Caesar the things which are Caesar's, and unto God the things that are God's. When they had heard these words, they marveled, and left him, and went their way. Patriot stems from the word father. Calling something your father is patriotism. From Salon.com. Why did you shoot me? Saul Caluso is dead because he bet on a football game. But it wasn't a bookie or a loan shark who killed him. His local government killed him, ostensibly to protect him from his gambling habit. 27 CFR 72.11. This is the Code of Federal Regulations. Commercial crimes. Any of the following types of crimes, federal or state. Offenses against the revenue laws, semicolon. Burglary, counterfeiting. Forgery, kidnapping, larceny, robbery, illegal sale or possession of deadly weapons. Prostitution, including soliciting, procuring, pandering, white slaving, keeping house of ill fame, and like offenses. Extortion, swindling and confidence games, and attempting to commit, conspiring to commit, or compounding any of the foregoing crimes. Addiction to narcotic drugs and use of marijuana will be treated as if such were commercial crimes. Let me repeat that. Commercial crimes. Any of the following types of crimes, federal or state. Offenses against the revenue laws. Why did you shoot me? Well, the answer's simple. You were taking Caesar's cut, and he doesn't like it when you are making money on your body that he owns. And he owns it thanks to patriotism. This is the action of human husbandry. You are being farmed. This is occurring because you call it your father, and you ask it to protect you from yourself. To the betterment of corporate policy and keeping corporations on corporate welfare. Human husbandry. A short story of human husbandry. Once upon a time, when the continent was sparsely populated, the indigenous peoples, having been largely killed off by the introduction of pestilence, disease, and natural resources, seemed so abundant they would never be used up. Public bodies, corporations, were organized mainly to distribute the resources to the favored or privileged populace via an assortment of rights. Water rights, grazing rights, hunting rights, logging rights, mining rights, trading rights, building rights, fishing rights. Some of these rights promoted the practice of what we call animal husbandry. Dr. Henry Kissinger proposed in his memorandum to the NSC that depopulation should be the highest priority of U.S. foreign policy towards the Third World. He quoted reasons of national security, and because the U.S. economy will require large and increasing amounts of minerals from abroad, especially from less developed countries. Wherever a lessening of population can increase the prospects for such stability, population policy becomes relevant to resources, supplies, and to the economic interests of the United States Incorporated. East Germany's secret police sold citizens to Western pharmaceutical companies to use as human guinea pigs in drug trials. Rules of Procedure of the Freeburg Ethics Commission International, or FECI. FECI means to kill the fee. Since its inception, FECI has reviewed and provided expert opinions for clinical studies using human test subjects. After more than 25 years of existence, the FECI has achieved national and international reputation for professionalism. The expert opinion prepared for a clinical study is based on the current editions of the recommendations of the Revised World Medical Association's Declaration of Helsinki, the directives and guidelines of the European Union, and the regulations of the United States Food and Drug Administration, or FDA. These contracts to kill human beings and use them as human test subjects are at the Ethics Commission with the FDA. The United States Incorporated Food and Drug Administration has contracts with the Ethics Commission to obliterate the human populace. From smallbusiness.cron.com. Examples of company policy and procedures. Company policies and procedures establish the rules of conduct within an organization, outlining the responsibilities of both employees and employers. From Russia Today. Cop caught planting drugs. From complex.com. Utica cop caught on his own dashboard camera allegedly planting evidence. From WSBT.com. Charges dropped against man claiming officers planted drugs on him. This is corporate policy. Those cops usually disappear or get off on a technicality later, but they're really good employees for the corporation. This is also known as insurance. Guarantees what's going to happen, doesn't it? From TribLive.com, former Allegheny prosecutor charged with promoting prostitution. From Black's Law Dictionary, first edition, guarantee. A promise to answer for the payment of some debt or the performance of some duty in case of the failure of another person who in the first instance is liable to such payment or performance. From Black's Law Dictionary, 8th edition, guarantee insurance. An agreement to cover a loss resulting from another's default, insolvency, or specified misconduct. Also termed surety insurance. From docslegus.wisconsin.gov. Sureties. Every surety under this chapter except for a surety under subsection 345.61 shall be a resident of this state. A surety under this chapter shall be a natural person. A natural person. You're the surety. Now let's visit that again. Cop caught planting drugs. Utica cop caught on his own dashboard camera allegedly planting evidence. Charges dropped against man claiming officers planted drugs on him. This is a common theme. This is corporate policy. Insurance. You're the surety. This is a guarantee.
So you are aware of the securitization of the loans and the movement of the real estate, correct?
Yes, ma'am. I'm starting to find out about it because I have a situation with a piece of property that I found out that the original loan has been securitized, but yet they tried to, they once tried to foreclose on a piece of property that I had.
Right.
And I found out through a securitization situation that it actually had a CUSIP that was being actually traded and negotiated on Bloomberg.
Right. And what that is it's so far away. Here you are. You think you're protecting the real property when in reality that is your production value that they're trading on Bloomberg. They're trading it through the system by securitizing you. You are the surety. Only the natural person can be a surety. And that's the most horrifying thing because what comes next is a diagnosis. In order to generate that revenue that they need to pay back those monies now, they have to diagnose you. It's guaranteed. You are the guarantee. When it comes to insurance, you are the guarantee if you read the treatise on guarantee insurance. And what's going on is that when they're pushing these real estates through without you being the executor of the estate, you need to appoint yourself as the executor of your estate so that they can no longer trade it and barter you as a hypothecated thing. But as they're trading that, when they don't come up with those monies, not only are you being foreclosed on and losing all of your assets by the court process, but if there's any amount left over that you need to pay back, they're diagnosing you, so they will make you sick. They will cause a car accident. They will cause your car to break down. They'll burn down your house to come up with those monies through insurance derivatives. So you need to be really careful, and that's where my process comes in. When you come in and appoint yourself as the executor of the estate, it stops the administration of the estate. So, and only the living being can be the executor of the dead estate. This is stemming from the Husbandry Act of 1666. It was revised again with the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights is a bill in the nature of a bill of reviver. And you were saying that your ancestors chose this. They didn't. They were suckered into it just like everybody else, and they accepted this because they were patriotic. When you're patriotic, patriotism is patronizing something in exchange for protection. Religion is patronizing something in exchange for protection. Democratic theory is patronizing something in exchange for protection. And the sickest thing is that Stockholm Syndrome is patronizing a captor in exchange for protection. And nobody's realizing that the captor is religion. The captor is your government or your form of government right now. And so what you need to do is you must start executing your own estate. You have to administer your own estate. This stops their ability to trade you as a hypothecated deed, as a hypothecated title. You need to take it back out of their hands, and then you need to start indicting them for what they've done. This is larceny of lost, mislaid, or delivered property. These properties are you. You need to take back you and start administrating your own estate. It's a requirement. I mean, of self-governing, you need to step up and realize who you are. They taught God that he was not God so that they can own you, so that they can be your God. You need to realize your authority and take it back out of their hands and stop allowing you to be traded by court process, by legal process, and get back to public law. You are public. You are public. You were public before you were republic, and you are the United States. Each time, each nation, these municipalities, each county, each state is a foreign nation to the United States. You have to realize this. Start indicting them. Take them to court. You can sue a foreign nation. They are acting under private acts and acts of commerce. They have no immunity. They have no sovereignty. You have to take your own authority now and push back against them so they can no longer harm you, your children, your grandchildren, your neighbor. You have to stop this now, and we all have to stand as one right now.
I agree.
Absolutely. I'm so glad. I'm so glad to hear you tonight and to be able to meet you too, because we all have to get together. We all have to get together. We all have to fight this all as one as I am. That's what we were before they gave us title, before they told us that we were not and that we had to earn the right to be. We were simply I am. We need to get back to that as one unit. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to face this demon.
I agree. I'm glad you made it on the call.
And
somebody on here wants to know where you're getting your information. Can you believe? Where is the caller getting her information?
From the law. I mean, everything that I'm speaking of is all written. Tell them they can contact me on Skype.
Where can they? Yeah, they want to know where can I find this information.
Yeah, the Husbandry Act is at the UK legislature. You can find it if you put in Husbandry, which is CESTUI space QUE space VIE Act of 1666. You need to go back just before that to the separation of the spiritual and the temporal, which was an ordinance of King William I, where he separated the spiritual and the temporal. So he took your soul. It's hard to explain, but it's a psychological implication. In order to remove you from yourself, whereby you require a parent, they have to traumatize you, the child, and that is the removal of your soul. You're no longer aware of yourself, and so you choose to be patriotic to something else. Then in 1666, they said they lost all of your records. They lost everything in a fire. So since that time, you've been lost and dead at sea, or dead. And Husbandry means it's a motion to show cause life. With what cause do you live? And nobody so far until now has shown cause life. Everybody's going along, and you receive a summons in the mail from these courts, Well, a summon, you can only summon a dead thing. And so when you answer a summons in the mail, you're saying, here I am, I'm the dead thing. And this is how they're administering the dead thing. It's an estate. You are an estate. The name is an estate. And so you need to come in and show proof of life, which is part of my process. You just admit your life on the court record using an admission statement, which shows that you are alive on evidence. You become the administrator of your estate, which is the appointment doc. And you want to forgive the franchise that they created out of you. At your birth, the certificate of live birth is not a living being, it's a title. And so you'll find on that birth certificate it's a name, and that belongs to the Crown. You're a franchise of the United States Incorporated. The United States Incorporated is located in Washington, D.C. This is all written. Look in your state statutes. Each state beyond that is a foreign nation. They're all franchise of the United States Incorporated. They can be a sovereign state, but only if they're adhering to the public acts, public law, which is the Commerce Clause of the United States Constitution. In that Commerce Clause, they can do or say anything they want to under private acts and acts of commerce. However, if they're caught out, they're screwed. And that's basically what it says. You can go look for this. It's called a restrictive principle of sovereign immunity. And again, they revised it in 1974 with the Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act. And each franchise can have immunity. They can have state sovereignty only if they choose to act according to the public acts, according to public law. They do not have immunity if they're acting under private acts or acts of commerce, which is all of UCC, Uniform Commercial Code, is one big private act and act of commerce. Statutory law is not public law. It's a statute, which means statement of compulsion. It's all under code. These are private acts and acts of commerce. In this society now, you can no longer be harmed. Harm is upon a victim. Harm happens to be upon a human being. You have to be physically harmed for a crime to occur. What they're doing now under this system is injuring you. The word injure means to put into law. So every time that you're injured, and I give this example. If I am raped right now by somebody, my rapist will go into court. They will redistribute all of their assets fighting the rape charge. Their attorneys will pocket those monies. The rapists will eventually be caught, I call it catch and release. They will be put in prison or in jail. During that time, they will generate revenue for the attorneys and the judges and everybody in that pocket. I will not get anything, but I've been put into loss. So therefore, the judge, the attorneys, the court system, the criminal system, they are my pimps. I just got pimped out. Everybody else got paid for my rape. I didn't get anything but the rape. Now, you have to realize what the Violence Against Women Act does. It allows the female and children to be chattel only. We can only be injured. We can no longer be harmed. Each time we're injured or put into law, an attorney benefits, a judge benefits. The GEO group, go look at their financials. You will find that the GEO group is the #1 criminal authority in the United States. They're making trillions and trillions of dollars each and every year off of injury to us and false allegations. You have to look around you and see what's going on, and everybody needs to wake up and realize that they're being preyed on. There is no law. There is no law enforcement. There is statute. There is code. Law enforcement officials do not exist. These are all corporate bodies. Each sheriff is a franchise of the United States Incorporated. Each highway patrol, each police department, each law enforcement or quote law enforcement, they're all enforcing statute. This means that they're mall security guards. When they pick you up on the road for driving without a license, they're arresting you just in case. That is not according to public law. You have agreed and consented to this happening. You're allowing people to be charged just in case with a DUI, with child abuse, with stopping them for running a red light, just in case, just in case, just in case. And I have a lot of people that come to me and say, well, one time I was almost ran over. You weren't ran over. You were almost ran over. No harm came to you. Your ego was offended, it pissed you off, but you were never harmed. That does not mean that there should be somebody in prison for almost running over you because they didn't run over you. And this would be the same thing as you being arrested just in case. That means that I can go out and arrest somebody or falsely accuse somebody just in case they're going to commit a crime. This is what the use of psychology is. You can be diagnosed as a psychopath, and they'll say, well, you probably did it. That is not probable cause. That is not probable cause. You are allowing something sick and twisted to happen in your country. You've been watching your brothers and sisters being charged and adjudicated and put in prison for conspiracy to commit crimes. That means they were thinking about it. You are allowing your brothers and sisters to be arrested, adjudicated, and put into prison for thinking about it. If you like that, then fine. But I believe that if you don't stand up now, it's going to happen to you. It will happen to you. If you're allowing your brothers and sisters to be arrested, adjudicated, and in prison for thought crimes, then what's left? What is left? What chance do you have? What chance do your children have? You have to stand up now and realize what's going on and get out of this system. Indict them. Hold them accountable for what they're doing. They're kidnapping you. They're moving you, real estate, as property through the system to generate revenue for the attorneys.
We have one more question from the Rachel wants to know. Rachel got an order from the court that's unsigned. She wants to know, is it any good?
No, and you need to go back and you can either do a void ab initio on it, a void on it, or whatever it is. Usually they're not signed because they are illegal and they're requiring your consent. Now, if you don't argue that, that becomes an order, and they'll stick to it by establishment or according to their Bouvier laws. You consent unless you dissent. So you need to dissent to it. Whatever it is, you need to dissent to it and indict whoever wrote it. And most likely it was an attorney that wrote it, and the judge couldn't sign it because he would have got his hands dirty. They know they've done something wrong, but they're requiring you to consent to it. Most people look at a judge's order and believe it's an order. It rarely ever is an order. It rarely ever is an order.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your time and energy. I'll put the link on your webpage that I made for you. I've been trying to track all the calls, and I appreciate your time and effort and your selflessness. You're always there in the group, answering questions. I don't know how you do it.
We're all required. I love you, sister.
I love you too, and I love you, everybody out there.
We're having a lot of fun. It's so fun when everybody's waking up, and it truly is an enlightenment. And we're covering such great ground right now, and it is so amazing to see. Being in this for about 12 years, the last 2, it's finally picking up. And lately it's been absolutely overwhelming. But that's a beautiful thing to see. Coming from 12 years ago when nobody was doing this, and it's amazing to see. We all have to stand as one right now.